Now, all of this has produced a reaction among, I'm not ready to say the MAGA base, and I think the preliminary polling data suggests that that would be unwise and premature to say, but certainly among prominent MAGA influencers. And I don't even think it's a case where they're just trying to defend President Trump because it's President Trump, although I do think there's a big part of it. Everyone knows that if you want to remain in good standing in Trump world, if you want to have access to the White House or Mar-a-Lago, you need to heap praise on President Trump constantly. The minute you start criticizing him, you'll be treated like Thomas Massie or Rand Paul or Marjorie Taylor Greene or any number of other people as an enemy. And a lot of people who are leading Trump influencers rely on access to Trump world, to Mar-a-Lago, to the White House. They want that access. And the price for keeping it is that you constantly praise everything Trump does, that you run interference for him, that you tell the followers that you have that you should be happy with what he did, even if it's a complete reversal and abandonment of everything that he promised you previously that he would do that you also defended. So there's part of that for sure. But I do think it's important to note how potent war propaganda is. War propaganda is something that I've been watching for a long time. I've been talking about it for a long time. It is not just a advertisement tool or a way of pitching things to the media. It really is a science, propaganda. It's been developed over centuries, especially war propaganda. And it really is directed to the most primitive, visceral instincts that we all have, especially our tribalistic instincts. As I said before, when a country is attacked by a foreign power, they almost always unite. That's what you're seeing in part in Venezuela. A lot of people who don't love Maduro nonetheless don't want to be governed by the United States, don't want to be bombed by the United States. I watched it in Brazil earlier this year when President Trump announced a whole series of tariffs and sanctions where he said, we're going to stop Brazil from imprisoning Bolsonaro, we're going to stop Brazil from imposing censorship on its citizens. And huge numbers of Brazilians, after President Lula da Silva picked up the nationalist banner and said, we decide what happens in Brazil. We're Brazilians, we decide. Trump doesn't decide, he doesn't rule our lives. And huge numbers of people who don't even like Lula necessarily became resentful that the United States and Trump were trying to impose their will inside Brazil. Because you are part of a tribe. Your tribe is your nation. And we evolved to be part of tribes, to feel a tribal identity, and you unite with your tribe when it's under attack from external forces. And that's what war propaganda is designed to stimulate. It's designed to say, you're at war with this other tribe, and you have to unite with your tribe. And when you are told that your tribe is victorious, triumphant, achieving benevolent things for the world, you feel good about it. You feel good about it. I'm not exempting myself. This is a human condition. That's the part of our brain that war propaganda is intended to target. And one of the things it does is it allows people to feel strong and powerful. They get to watch their side, their group, their country, their tribe go and vanquish bad guys, kill bad guys. We feel strong about it. We feel good about it. We feel brave. Okay, look at what we just did. Even though the guys with the guns and the women with the guns are not us, they're the ones who risk their lives. They're the ones who needed physical bravery. It kind of vicariously spills over to us. And if we're people who don't feel particularly brave, if we feel like we haven't demonstrated much courage, we're particularly eager to be told that we deserve to feel brave and strong and purposeful. And that's what war propaganda does. And it's the reason it's so effective. And you're seeing so much in the MAGA movement, this kind of like chest beating. People are just like walking around like, yeah, we're so powerful. We're going to dominate the world because we're America. And even though these same people spent 4 years, 8 years saying, we don't want any more wars, no more regime change wars, no endless wars, stop the U.S. security state, focus on our country. Overnight, they just transform. And like I said, I think some of it is jaded and cynical and manipulative and careerist, but a lot of it is earnest in a way that I just described. And the U.S. government is absolutely, deliberately, brazenly fostering that. Here from the U.S. State Department, they posted this image earlier today. This is our hemisphere, and President Trump will not allow security to be threatened. Like, yeah, look at how strong we are. This is ours, not just the United States. Not just the United States. All of Latin America, all of South America, all of Central America, the Caribbean, all belongs to us. And I know some people have been convinced that that's what the Monroe Doctrine says. That's not what the Monroe Doctrine says. The Monroe Doctrine doesn't say we're going to go and invade every other country in the hemisphere and take what we want. It simply says that we believe that no other country has the right to interfere in and assert their will inside Latin America. That's what the Monroe Doctrine is. Now, here is Trump on Air Force One, and this is yesterday, and he was asked about what happens from now, not just in Venezuela, but in other countries, and he was standing next to Lindsey Graham, and here's what he said.
Yeah, a little bit different. We have some good people. We have Senator Lindsey Graham. Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
What does that mean? He's not going to be doing it very long?
He's not doing it very long. He has cocaine mills and cocaine factories. He's not going to be doing it very long.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and...
It sounds good to me.
Secretary Rubio mentioned...
You know why? Because they kill a lot of people, yeah.
Secretary Rubio mentioned Cuba yesterday in his remarks. Does the U.S. have a plan?
Cuba always survived because of Venezuela. Now they won't have that money coming in. They won't have the income coming in. Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about it.
Are you considering U.S. action in Cuba?
We're not. I think it's just going to fall. I don't think we need any action. It looks like it's going down.
Now, one of the most important things about that video that unfortunately you didn't get to see because of the way it was clipped was that Lindsey Graham was standing at his side. And as Trump was saying, we're going to do the same thing in Colombia and we're going to go in. Cuba's going to fall, and a bunch of Cuban Americans like Marco Rubio are going to be really happy about that because their allegiance still is to that region. Lindsey Graham was at his side just twitching and all beaming with ecstasy and joy, which he should. Lindsey Graham has had a vision of what American foreign policy should be for many years. And even though Trump ran on a platform that was the opposite of that vision, it is now being implemented. Lindsey Graham is always by Trump's side. Trump is campaigning for Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham has an America First GOP challenger, and Trump is raising money for Lindsey Graham and supporting Lindsey Graham because Lindsey Graham and he share a foreign policy ideology, obviously. And that's why Trump is threatening all of these other countries. He was also asked about Greenland, and Trump said, yes, we also are going to get Greenland. Here's what he said.
Do you expect to take an action against Greenland?
Well, I don't want to talk about Greenland. Let's talk about Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine. And we'll worry about Greenland in about 2 months. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days.
On Venezuela, we talked so much about energy.
By the way, I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you.
I think it's a big commitment.
You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true. They thought that was a great move. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it. And they know that.
I think there's some confusion about...
There you see Lindsey at his side being all like the little junior varsity mini Trump, beaming with pride about all the wars Trump is threatening to start. Trump went on to Truth Social a few days ago. As you might know, there are protests throughout Iran, as happens in many, many countries, including the United States. There are clashes between protesters and the police, again, as happens in many countries, including the United States. And Donald Trump decided that it's the responsibility of the United States to protect the protesters. Here's what he posted on Truth Social, quote, if Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is then custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded, ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So we're again threatening Iran, Israel's #1 enemy, this time to serve as kind of a domestic police force for Iran. We're going to protect the citizens of Iran from clashes with their government. Is that? I thought we weren't supposed to be the world's police force. This is like pre-MAGA, the most basic American resentment. Why are we the world's police force? And now Trump's promising to police Iranian protest and protect protesters against the government. And yet you have overnight these people who, when Trump was saying, we don't want more regime change wars, we don't want any more interventions, were saying the same thing. And then the minute Trump abandoned it, so did they. The paragon of masculine bravery and courage, Matt Walsh, who works for Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire. Ben Shapiro often comes up to Matt Walsh whenever Matt is saying things off key, not serving Israel, not serving the U.S. security state. And Ben says, Matt Walsh, get back to work. And this is something that people have observed. And Matt Walsh gets back to work, he just snaps his fingers. And this paragon of masculine courage and bravery who tells everybody how to be a real man like Matt Walsh, someone who's just seen it all. He's like a hardened war veteran. He's like stood up to powerful governments around the world, like really grizzled guy who's been through it all. He's now like a real man. So he like tells us, what does it mean to be masculine? Like, what is a real man? Matt Walsh said on January 4th, I totally support turning other countries in our hemisphere into subordinate vassals of the United States. That's the very definition of an American first foreign policy. Matt Walsh is a real man, so he turns other countries into his subordinate vassals. He's like, yeah, I'm so powerful. I feel so strong as a result of what we did in Venezuela. When Trump and the government were saying they were representing non-intervention and anti-war approaches and only focusing on Americans in the United States, Matt Walsh said exactly the opposite. Just 6 months ago, June 25th, he said, we spent the last 25 years bringing freedom and democracy to countries around the globe while our own country has been systematically invaded. Now our largest cities are run by foreigners and communists. If you want to know why I'm so avowedly non-interventionist, this is why. Imagine 6 months ago, and again, you're not just any guy. You're like the paragon of masculine virtue. You're like the real man who is just filled with bravery, whose entire life is a hallmark to courage. And 6 months ago, you're like, I don't want any more intervention. I'm as non-interventionist as it gets. And then Trump, your leader, and Ben Shapiro, your boss, say this is a really good war. And then you turn around and you're like, yeah, I want all these countries invaded. I want them controlled. And again, I think a lot of this is careers, but I do think a lot of it is also earnest. People get overwhelmed by more propaganda. Here's Tim Pohl on January 3rd, 2025, and he's been an outspoken anti-interventionist for a long time. He said, this is actually January 3rd, 2026. This is what he posted after or during the invasion of Venezuela. He said, the U.S. economy is about to boom, tons of free oil heading our way. Again, I guess based on the premise that if you give access to Chevron and Exxon to Venezuelan oil, somehow all that money is going to flood into the American people. Like, when has that ever happened with oil company profits? July 25th, 2019, during the first Trump administration, Tim Pohl said, ending private prisons, ending the death penalty, ending regime change wars. These are my top three, one of which was ending regime change wars. And now we're back to a regime change war, and he's saying, oh, money's about to flow into the United States. Here's the utterly brainless, partisan Trump influencer cat turd who, during the Trump action in Venezuela, said Venezuela is now more free than New York City. March 8th, 2025, just a few months earlier, he said, name one inspired regime change, U.S.-inspired regime change that hasn't ended in absolute disaster. So you see this transformation taking place. The minute Trump orders an intervention, a regime change war, so many of them just get on board with it, even though a few months earlier, before Trump did it, they were saying how steadfastly opposed they were to it because that's what Trump was saying at the time. And there is, beyond just the kind of primitive, visceral efficacy of war propaganda, there is this aspect to it where men who have never demonstrated real bravery in their lives or real courage in their lives, men who have never taken any risks before, men who feel weak as a result, ashamed of their lack of courage and bravery, they are particularly susceptible to war propaganda because they get that vicarious sense of strength and pulsating power that, as I described before, is otherwise unavailable to them. You see that with Matt Walsh. Here's Michael Knowles, who also works for Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire. And he's really feeling powerful and strong as a result of these other women and men that he's cheering for, like waving his pom-poms, who actually went into Venezuela. And he said, if I were Canada, I'd be on my best behavior right about now. So Michael Knowles, this little Daily Wire twerp, who thinks he's very powerful and strong, even though he's never demonstrated any willingness to accept risk, to confront any power sources, to sacrifice any of his security for any reason, no bravery, no courage at all. He wants to feel that. And the only way he gets to is by kind of vicariously absorbing the bravery of others. And now he keeps going around and threatening, hey, Canada, if I were you, I would be on my best behavior right now, or else you're going to pay the price. Do you see how psychologically needy these people are and why these kinds of wars appeal to them? Speaking of weak men who have never demonstrated any bravery and love war as a result of giving them a sense of purpose otherwise attainable, Lindsey Graham wasn't just standing next to Trump on Air Force One when Trump was threatening many other wars, but Lindsey Graham himself did what he always does, which is advocate for and threaten a bunch of new wars. Here's part of what he said.
Can I say something? So when he first got elected in January, we met, biggest comeback ever. We talked about
You think so, really? I didn't feel it was a comeback, actually.
So
Because the first one was...
the bottom line is we talked about a drug caliphate in our backyard. We had Venezuela, we have Cuba, we have Colombia in our backyard. And these three countries have been condemned ever since I've been in politics. Joe Biden put a $25 billion bounty on Maduro's head. Chris Smith, today he got inaugurated, said, I hope Trump will hold Maduro's feet to the fire. You did. So what has he done? He's going to clear our backyard of a drug caliphate, countries run by narco-terrorist dictators who murder, rape, send drugs into our country to kill thousands of our citizens. To my Democratic friends, you should be celebrating this. When bin Laden went down, I was the first to applaud President Obama. This was one of the most sophisticated military operations in the history of the country. What they were able to do was amazing. They knew we were coming. We had a good part of the Navy, and they were able to capture this man alive. No military in the world could have done it. And as to this commander-in-chief, he did something people talked about doing. You just wait for Cuba. Cuba is a communist dictatorship that's killed priests and nuns. They've preyed on their own people. Their days are numbered. We're going to wake up one day, I hope in 26, in our backyard, we're going to have allies in these countries doing business with America, not narco-terrorist dictators killing Americans. This is a big frigging day. And everybody in the world is thinking differently than they were just a few days ago because of what you did.
By the way,
He's really feeling himself. I mean, he's really ecstatic. He's really aroused with this war fever. This is his dream. Lindsey Graham's dream has been fulfilled. I mean, he's been mocked for years as this John Bolton type, Bill Kristol type, deranged warmongering freak. But his vision is the one that's imposed through the MAGA movement on American foreign policy, and he has every right to be as happy as he is. But you can see the kind of like just pulsating sense of power. He's like, I'm going to get rid of this country and that country. And Trump is standing there next to him because Trump is the vessel for all of this, despite having run on a campaign of doing exactly the opposite. Trump standing next to Lindsey Graham as both of them threaten a bunch of other countries with regime change wars, the ones that neocons have long craved most, including Cuba, is unfortunately now the most vivid manifestation of what MAGA foreign policy is. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.